He was 86 years old when the truth finally hit him. Not in a dramatic fight, not in a loud argument, but in silence, sitting alone at his kitchen table, staring at a bank statement that made his hands shake. For 52 years, he believed he had a happy marriage, a loving partner, a peaceful life, a stable future. But that morning, he realized something terrifying. The life he trusted, the partnership he believed in, the financial security he thought they built together was a lie. And the painful part, he wasn't betrayed by hate, he was betrayed by silence. Let me tell you his story, because what he discovered at 86 is a lesson about money, trust, and financial independence that most people only understand when it's far too late. And if you understand this lesson today, you can protect your future. His name was Richard. Richard wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't famous. He was just a normal man who worked a normal job for 40 years. He worked in a manufacturing company. Every morning at 7 a.m. he left the house. Every evening he came back tired but proud. Proud because he believed he was building something meaningful. A life, a home, a future for his family. He trusted his wife completely. She handled the finances, the bills, the savings, the investments. Richard believed that was partnership. He would earn the money. She would manage it. And for decades, he never questioned it. Every time he asked about money, she would smile and say, "Don't worry, everything is taken care of." And Richard believed her, because trust feels comfortable. Trust feels safe. But sometimes blind trust becomes the most expensive mistake of your life. For 52 years, Richard never opened the investment accounts. He never checked the retirement funds. He never reviewed the bank balances. He believed his marriage was a team, but what he didn't realize was that he had slowly removed himself from the most important conversations of his own life: money. Now let me pause here for a moment, because this is where many people make the same mistake. They think money management is optional. They think someone else will take care of it, a spouse, a friend, a financial advisor. But the moment you stop understanding your own money, you give away control of your future. And Richard learned this the hard way. At 86, his wife passed away unexpectedly. After the funeral, Richard sat down to organize the finances. He opened the drawers, looked through old files, gathered passwords, and for the first time in half a century, he logged into the accounts. What he saw made his heart sink. The retirement account was nearly empty. The savings account had almost nothing left. There were credit card debts he had never seen, loans he had never heard about, investments that had been sold years ago. And suddenly, Richard realized something terrifying. For years, they weren't building wealth. They were surviving, quietly, silently, and he never knew. But the truth was even more painful. His wife had been financially struggling for years. Medical expenses, helping relatives, bad financial decisions. But she never told him. She kept smiling. She kept saying everything was fine. And Richard kept believing the story, not because he was foolish, but because comfort is powerful. Many people don't want to look at the numbers. They don't want to ask hard questions. They don't want to face uncomfortable truths. So they choose peace today and risk chaos tomorrow. Richard spent the next week slowly uncovering the financial reality of his life. The house had a remaining mortgage. There was very little retirement income. The investments he thought existed didn't exist. And at 86 years old, Richard had to face something most people fear at any age: financial uncertainty. Now imagine this. You worked for 40 years. You saved, you sacrificed, you believed you were preparing for a peaceful retirement. And suddenly you discover the safety net isn't there. That realization doesn't just affect your wallet. It shakes your identity, your confidence, your sense of control. But here's the surprising part. After the initial shock, Richard didn't become bitter. He didn't spend his days blaming the past. Instead, he started asking a different question. How did I let this happen? And the answer was simple. He confused love with financial awareness. He believed trust meant not asking questions. But real partnership doesn't mean silence. Real partnership means transparency. Money conversations are uncomfortable, but avoiding them is dangerous because wealth is not built by hope. Wealth is built by awareness, by planning, by understanding where every dollar goes. Richard began learning about money at 86 years old. Yes, 86. He started reading about investing, learning about budgeting, understanding retirement accounts. And the first lesson he discovered shocked him. Wealth is not about how much you earn. It's about how much you understand. You can earn millions and still end up broke. You can earn a modest salary and build financial freedom. The difference is awareness, control, and discipline. Richard realized that during his working years he focused entirely on earning, but he ignored the system behind the money. Think about this. Most people spend decades working for money, but only a few hours learning how money actually works. They work harder, longer, more overtime, but they never build financial intelligence. And that's why so many people reach retirement feeling uncertain. Not because they didn't earn enough, but because they didn't manage it wisely. Richard began making small changes. He simplified his finances, cut unnecessary expenses, spoke with financial advisors, reorganized what little savings he had left. And something surprising happened. Even at 86 years old, his mindset changed. He stopped seeing himself as a victim of the past and started seeing himself as a student of money. He told a friend one day something very powerful. He said, "I spent my whole life working for money, but I never made money work for me." That sentence alone is a lesson worth remembering, because financial freedom doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from strategy, investing, compounding, long-term thinking. Let me explain this in a simple way. If someone invests just $300 a month, starting at age 25, with average market returns, by retirement, that money can grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars, not because they were rich, but because they started early, because they respected time. Time is the most powerful force in investing, but time only works for people who understand money early enough. Richard didn't have that advantage, but he still chose something powerful: responsibility. Instead of living in regret, he started sharing his story. He told younger people the truth he wished someone had told him. Never disconnect yourself from your finances. Not in marriage, not in partnerships, not in business. Money transparency is not a sign of distrust. It is a sign of maturity, because financial independence protects more than your bank account. It protects your peace, your choices, your dignity. Imagine two people living the same life. Both earn the same salary. Both work the same hours. But one person understands investing, budgeting, and long-term planning. The other ignores it. After 30 years, their lives will look completely different. One will have options, freedom, security. The other will have uncertainty, stress, and dependence. And the tragedy is the difference was never about intelligence. It was about attention. Where you place your attention shapes your future. Richard's story isn't about blaming his wife. It's about understanding a universal truth. Financial ignorance is expensive. Sometimes the cost appears slowly. Sometimes it appears all at once. But it always appears. The good news is this: financial awareness can start at any moment. The earlier you start, the more powerful it becomes. But even if you start late, the knowledge still changes your life, because once you understand money, fear disappears. Confusion disappears. You stop guessing. You start planning. And planning creates confidence. At 86 years old, Richard found something many people never discover: clarity. Not about the past, but about the future. He said something that stayed with everyone who heard him speak. He said, "A peaceful life doesn't come from avoiding problems. It comes from understanding them." And money is one of the biggest problems people avoid. They avoid checking their accounts, avoid learning about investing, avoid discussing finances with their partners. But avoidance never creates security. Only knowledge does. If you take one lesson from Richard's story, let it be this: your financial life deserves your attention. Not next year, not after retirement, not someday. Today. Understand your income, track your expenses, learn about investing, build assets, ask questions, because money is not just numbers. Money represents time, energy, and freedom. Every dollar you earn is a piece of your life, and when you manage it wisely, you protect your future self. Richard may have discovered the truth at 86, but his lesson can change someone's life at 26, 36, or 46. The earlier you learn it, the more powerful it becomes. So tonight, before you close this video, ask yourself a simple question: do I truly understand my money? Do I know where it goes? Do I know how it grows? Do I know what my future looks like financially? If the answer is no, that's not a failure. That's an opportunity. Because the moment you start learning, your future starts changing. Wealth begins with awareness. Freedom begins with responsibility. And your financial story is still being written. Make sure you're the one holding the pen.